Hello, I'm Alex Sword, European Editor at Internet Retailing, and I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar titled Progressive Web Apps, the Future of Mobile Commerce. The session is brought to you in association with Shopware, partnering with Vue Storefront. Today's webinar will focus on progressive web apps, how they work, and what the benefits are to retailers. The short session will include discussion and practical lessons for going forward. I'm pleased to welcome two speakers today. Firstly, we have Vincenzo Pollicino, Enterprise Relations Manager at Shopware, a Europe-based e-commerce platform. We also have Patrick Friday, Head of Growth at Vue Storefront, a progressive web app storefront for e-commerce. After the presentations, we will move into a Q&A session. To ask a question, type it into the box on your dashboard and press send. After the webinar finishes, we will send out a link allowing you to view it again at your convenience. So without any further ado, let me hand over to Vincenzo. Vincenzo, welcome to the webinar.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much, Alex. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. As Alex said, we're going to talk about the future of mobile e-commerce, progressive web apps. The webinar this time will be in two parts. So basically, Patrick will start with the PWA solution by Vue Storefront. Myself, I'm Key Account Manager. Little correction there, not Enterprise Relations Manager, but it's almost the same, no problem. So the first part will be with Patrick about the solution in general, and the second part will be my part to see how the PWA solution will integrate into our e-commerce platform, which is Shopware 6. Okay, now I would like to hand over to Patrick to start with this part.
Vincenzo, Alex, thank you for introduction. Hello everyone. So I will just go on with the presentation. So I would like to start with introduction to PWA in case of the fact that some of you maybe are not that familiar with it yet. So the origins of PWA are back in London, actually, with Alex Russell from 2012, 2013. When they started to work on the service workers, and service workers are, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of the whole PWA concept, if we can call it like that. So here is a timeline. So as you can see, it's pretty much 6 years now when PWA are under construction. And from the important things, when the actual PWA for e-commerce came on, we can see Flipkart from 2015, and there was two important dates for the whole e-commerce part when it comes to the platform integration. 2017 in August, we started to work on our Vue Storefront solution, and then a couple months later, in December 2017, work started on PWA Studio from Magento. And in May 2018, we released our first version, which was just under 1 year time. The most three important things about the PWA, that they are reliable, they are fast, and they are engaging. And I will cover that in the slides that are about to come. Here on the link, you can see the video when they introduced PWA by Google, and some more informations. You will get the presentation afterwards, so feel free to digger into that. For me, this is a slide that really tells a lot about PWA, because my background is I've been working within native app development for quite a long time, almost 7 years. And I was following the development on progressive web apps, and I can say that progressive web apps combines the best of web and native app development. So the things that are coming from native apps, as you can see, is functions offline. There is possibility to have push notifications by using some third-party services. You can add it to your home screen, and you can have mobile-specific navigation, which is probably the most important thing from the user perspective, that we can separate the design that you have on your desktop and then the ones that people get on the mobile phones when they enter your page. From responsive web, we are getting things like indexed by Google, so your products are actually gonna be searchable. You don't have to download, as we do not have to upload this to the marketplace, and there are no updates needed. So as you know, and if you are using some of your native apps, from time to time you have to go to the App Store and download an update, which is quite heavy. And with PWA, all of the content and functionalities are always up to date, because after all, it's a website. So progressive apps are already there, and for the time that I've set from 2012 until now, we have 2019, some quite big companies implemented PWA for many various reasons. Twitter is a good example, so you can go to twitter.com and add to homepage, add to home screen the app, and you can see the difference. PWA from Twitter is only 1.5 megabytes, and if you have an iOS phone, it takes around 95 megabytes on your storage, which is quite heavy. And Vue Storefront and Shopware 6. So we are going to the next stage with our relationship, and Vue Storefront will become a front end for Shopware 6, and we want to call it PWA for Shopware, which will be powered by Vue Storefront. Why? It's because of the native integration that we are working on. Some facts about Vue Storefront. We are right now the biggest open source PWA on the market, more than 5,000 stars on GitHub, 2,100 Slack members, and a lot of modules. We do have integrations with different e-commerce backends. Those that are the best are Magento 1 and Magento 2, and Shopware is to come. Many other integrations like Agent, Prismic, Algolia, Stripe, so different CMSs, Storyblok, Contentful, and more than 50 partners worldwide. As you can see here, this is the growth as we are having right now. So it's quite steep, and compared to Magento development, when it comes to the community, we are slowly catching up with them. And I hope that in 2020, we're gonna go above 7,500 stars. So here are some facts about the integration itself. So the most important is that we're gonna make this integration native, which means we are connected directly with Shopware APIs. We are not using Elasticsearch, for example. Full product categories, attributes, different checkout options with cash on delivery and different payment methods, high speed with local caching. So that's the actual benefit of the PWA itself. SAP user experience with site server rendering, which is having a great support of your SEO, native app functionalities, so you can add it to your home screen, which is very easy to start on the app, and push notifications for those that really need that kind of features, which is great for e-commerce, as you probably know. And modern Vue.js frontend, and as an admin panel, which Vincenzo will cover afterwards, is also in Vue.js. We are staying with the same framework, which is going to make it easy for agencies and merchants to have the same tech stack within the company. As for me, and why we made the decision, instead of doing just a connector between Shopware and Vue Storefront, is the amazing Shopware shopping experiences, the CMS that is coming out of Shopware. For those of you that already had the chance to play around with this, you already know how great it is. If not, I am highly recommending you to sign up for a demo with the guys from Shopware. I'm sure Vincenzo can help you with that and get the demo of it, because I was astonished how great this is going to be. And this is why we decided to go with a native integration. That will take longer to develop, but in the long run, it will benefit the whole community quite a lot. So here is one of the main reasons why you should consider PWA. The traffic is shifting heavily from desktop to mobile. And in 2021, which is pretty much in 1.5 years, almost 73% of global sales will be done through mobile, which is crazy. And a lot of people are not aware of that. I very often compare it to when some salespeople some time ago were going up to offline stores, telling them, hey, you know, there is something called e-commerce, and you should start selling your products online. This is where people want to buy your products. And they will say like, well, no, I don't think it's just a trend that is going to disappear. And it didn't. So I'm telling you now that your mobile traffic is gonna continue to grow, and you should be aware of that. So the sooner you will adopt to this, and the better for your business. And this is something I call a mobile gap. So just think of yourselves. If very often you want to find some product, so you're gonna go on Google, you're gonna type in the product you're looking for, you're gonna spend a lot of time researching, but then most likely you will say, okay, I found it, so then I'm gonna go to my desktop or laptop computer and do the final check, and then I'm gonna do the checkout on my desktop. That's why we spend so much time on mobile, and only 20% of the money is still spent on mobile versus desktop, which is coming from many different reasons. The most important one is the overall poor mobile user experience, which is coming from slow websites, bad product images that are basically too small, wrong descriptions, and so on. And this is the following with the slow content kill mobile conversions. A lot of sites those days are honestly loading too slow, even though we are getting better internet connection. And that's because those sites are basically responsive, right? They are not made for mobile. There is a great book called Smartphone E-commerce by Benjamin. You can Google it, it's great, and it's really showing why it's so important to make those industries kind of separate, right? So one is desktop e-commerce and another one is smartphone e-commerce. And PWA is something that has a very heavy influence on the user experience on the smartphone e-commerce. Native app features, so full screen, home screen, push notifications, offline mode, so everything that you are used to when you are using your native apps. And then I want to talk a bit about the user experience and how we can improve it with PWA. So the first most important thing, very practical, think how you hold your phone and what's easy for you to have. Right now, I just got my iPhone 11, which is a bit bigger than iPhone 7 that I used to have. And on iPhone 11, I can't reach the top of the screen. So right now, it's for me, it would be very hard. And if you're going to look at the websites, and most of them are just responsive, the navigation bar, search bar, everything is on the top of the screen, which is very hard for me to reach as a user. It's very hard for me to navigate the e-commerce site in general. And so what we want to do, in this case, you can see that most of the important things are on the bottom of the screen. So it's very easy for users to reach. We can make very rich content that with a lot of animations, which is fun to use, which is easy to use, and is very intuitive. So here is how we should prioritize the content on the mobile for the smartphones. So top category is dynamic menu and bottom down navigation. Bottom down navigation, I believe, is probably the most important change, how we should rethink our user experience and the overall design when it comes to PWA designs. Here we have some examples that we can really tell a story, and this is together with a Shopware CMS, this can become reality of how we want to present our brand. So on the left side, you have Happy Socks that probably a lot of you know already, and they sell for emotions. On the right side, you have Malianta. They want to show that all of the bags and the products they do, they are really handcrafted, and they want to show the quality on the main screen of your phone just when you enter the website. Optimize product pages and listings. So this is again how we can make shopping more fun. We can add it to favorite, we can add it to cards, different animations, swiping models, visual search. There is an example of what we did as a proof of concept for staples. So we have a scan option, which is possible with PWA. The use case is that for people that are working in a reception desk or they are an assistant and they want to order more supplies, very often they get printed catalogs. They can simply scan the code of the product and add it to the card. Like here, you have an example. The product was scanned and it was added to the card right away. Localized content. So here we have a proof of concept for Burger King. We can make our PWA to ask as point of sales or kiosk, which is working pretty well when it comes to the user experience. And this can replenish the native applications quite fast with this kind of approach. And for the users, it's great because they don't have to download anything. It's just on the website. bots, chats, and assistant. This is becoming a huge trend in e-commerce, so we want to make sure that Vue Storefront and Shopware do support this kind of features. The checkout, checkout is probably one of the biggest pain points for the e-commerces working heavily on mobile, because the abandon rate on the checkout is probably the biggest. And again, it's coming from the user experience issues. It's either very bulky, it's slow, and there is also a problem with trust. So people very often are not very, trustful for different payment providers. I don't know what's the reason, because you are not really much more safe on your desktop, right? It's just the feeling. Maybe it's some kind of psychology thing that people have. When they have a bigger screen, that they feel more safe with that. So that's probably one of the main reasons. Another thing is that if you do not have your credit card saved and you have to enter all of the numbers on the checkout process, I do understand that because it's much easier to type it on your keyboard than on the small smartphone screen. But there are some ways that can be solved with this. That's going to be on other slides. On that part, there was something which is quite a good feature. So you can either save the checkout for later. So this is exactly to be used, for example, when you want to save it and come back later, or you want to do it on your desktop. So when you have an account, like a user account on the e-commerce website, you can just save it and do it on your laptop, which means that you will not lose any of the data, or you can share it. And the share email or the share checkout very often is used. So here is the use case. Some kids can go to the e-commerce store, add the products to the cart that they like, and then they can just share it to email or even some social media with the parents. So they can send it to the parents and be like, hey, this is what I like. If you think I should get it as well, and dear parent, if you are willing to pay for that, I would be more than happy. So please do it. So there are different options we can play around with the checkout. Here are some of the things that we support. So Klarna, Stripe, PayPal, Braintree. So some of the most important payment gates that are out there. We do have integrations with those, and those are making it quite easy, and people are more trustful when it comes to those kind of checkouts. And here is the thing that we are using. So also Google Pay, Apple Pay, bank transfer. So a lot of other things that we are trying to fight with. We want to decrease the abandonment rate. We want to improve the user experience and make the whole payment and checkout process flawless. So we want to be sure that people will change their mindset and they will trust the mobile phones that they have in their pockets, because shopping on your smartphone is just much more reliable and faster. You always have it with you. So you don't have to think, okay, I have to do it on my laptop, then you forget, you didn't buy it, it didn't come on time. There are many different issues connected with this kind of mindset. The payment request API. So this is something straight from Google, and I absolutely love it. I believe it's going to save a lot of issue for developers, especially because for the users itself, it's just like, I just want to pay in the easiest possible way. But for developers to fight with checkouts, and if there are some developers out there listening to me, you know what I'm saying. Checkout is probably one of the most complex thing when it comes to the whole e-commerce setup, and Google Payment Request API will gonna make your life much easier. We will support this, and it's gonna be really great, and I think it's gonna solve a lot of issues for all of us. So another, and probably the most important thing of the PWA itself, as I mentioned before, we are using service workers, and service workers allow us to cache the website. So every time user is going to certain category or product page, we're gonna save it for him. So the next time he's there, it's gonna be pretty much instant. So it has a great influence on search optimization. For those that are very demanding, you can mix it together with AMP, but you have to know that with AMP, your design possibilities are much more limited than PWA. So you always have to find the balance. Okay, so do I want to get some more points on the page speed score, or do I want to provide my users with a great user experience? Because honestly, I believe that if your site will load by 200 milliseconds or 300 milliseconds longer than it should compared to AMP, but your user experience, your design will be outstanding, then users will appreciate that much more than the AMP itself. So it's a trade-off of what you want to do. SEO friendly, so yeah, the whole PWA concept is from Google, and the story behind it is that how Google makes money. They want to sell you more ads. They want you to advertise better. If you get good SEO, you're already happy because you get more organic reach. If your website performs well, you have a good user experience for your mobile, you are willing to spend more on ads. And this is why Google is promoting this technology, because first of all, they want people to buy more on mobile. Second of all, they want you to buy more mobile ads. If you're gonna convert from those, this is how you're gonna spend more money, because it's gonna give you a great business. Offline browsing. So this is one of the features that is possible to do with PWA. Again, if you are a merchant, you should think if this is something that happens for you very often. I think it's good for companies that are selling, construction things. When sales reps are in the field, they are losing the connection very often. But if you sell, beauty products, fashion, anything like this, and your users are within the network most of the time, you should consider if this is something super important for you, because obviously it's gonna take more time in development and it's gonna cost you money. So always remember to scale it based on priority versus value for your clients. Voice assistant integration. So after the chatbots and assistants, this is another very hot topic, and I also believe that voice commerce is going to become very popular, and we are already used to this. So if we're gonna look at the adoption of those services and products like Amazon Alexa or Google Echo, we can think of how fast this technology is being adopted among different countries. So this is also something we'll support, and so Vue Storefront and Shopware is like, pretty much proven for the future growth. So if you're gonna go with those two, I don't think you have to be afraid that in some time, like 2-3 years, you'll have to change your software because something is not supported and there is something that you really, really want. And Vincenzo will talk more about the APIs that we are using and why any third-party integration is possible here. So analytics and reporting. So of course, a Google Tag Manager is there, and any other third-party solution that you are using can be integrated. Afterwards, the most important things pretty much for all of the merchants, you guys want to make more money and generate more revenue. So the average increase is around 20%. We do 3 things: performance, engagement, and conversion. So performance and engagement are basically following the conversion, and conversion is the result on those 2. And development experience. So this is also quite important, because I believe the community will continue to grow, and the better development experience we provide, the more community members will come. And this means better access to very skilled developers that will deliver very, very good implementations for all of you. Easy to use, powerful in action. So of course, this is Shopware ready. It works with pretty much anything out there: iOS, Android, desktop, tablets, voice commerce, VR, AR, everything can be done here. It's just a matter of how much work and how much money you're willing to invest, and what is going to bring value to you. And so here are some examples. So Giorgio.com is one of them. Is one of the first e-commerces that went out there. So page loading times increased by 3.8 times, 31% increase in conversion rates, much more time per visit, and longer average time on site for visit from the home screen. So this is also important. Those that already added the app to the home screen are staying on your site for longer. So those are the loyal customers. Jumia, and here as well we can see 33% higher conversion rates. And this is one of my favorite: 12 times more users versus native apps, Android and iOS. And I strongly believe it's because this site is out of Africa, and internet data is much more expensive over there than here in Europe. So downloading an iOS and Android app is quite painful for them. So that's why PWA made so much better success. Lancome, so this is from the whole beauty industry, probably right now one of the biggest cases promoted by Google. 17% increase in conversions, 53% increase in mobile sessions on iOS. That means that people actually want to browse more than do the native app downloads and staying over there, and increasing conversion rates from push notifications. So they made a use of push notifications, and they also said, if you're going to read more about this, that it works better than the actual email marketing. OLX, same thing. For those guys, what's very important, 146% higher CTR on ads and 250 more in re-engagement. So for them, advertising and engagement was extremely important, and they managed to deliver that through PWA. Alibaba and AliExpress, very similar examples. So for AliExpress, 104 new users across all browsers. This is great. 82% higher conversions in iOS, and 2 times more pages per visit per session. So here is some ideas for you how you can see if your website do require some work on performance. So here is the site. You can go to testmysite.com. I've tested one of the shops that are based on Shopware. It's Shopify. So here you can see that the site was loading by 5.1%, which is quite slow, and it's slowing down. So the monthly trend is also not very good. Here you can actually benchmark some of the competitors. You can add some more of your competitor sites to see how you go amongst them. So right now, if they are going with potential increase in annual revenue, so you can see here going down by only 1% from 5.1 to 4.1, assuming 100,000 monthly visitors, 2% conversion rate, $50 average rate. That's the amount. And here, if they would go down by 3% in performance, so here is a quite significant number, and that could be done in revenue, and this comes through better user experience and therefore better conversion rates, and that's how we get the revenue. So recently we released a PWA book. So if you're gonna go to devante.com/PWA book, you can get an access to it. There is absolutely no contact forms. You do not have to give us your email. It's just available online. So thank you so much. You can ask me questions afterwards. And now I would like to give it over to Vincenzo.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. Hoping everybody can see my screen and that the switching worked well. Okay, so just a few words to my person. So I'm a key account manager for the UK and Irish market. So anything regarding shopware in the UK, I'm the person to go to. Here is my email address, so feel free to contact me anytime. Some few details about Shopware. So in case you don't know us already, we are an e-commerce platform from Germany. We're expanding in the UK market at the moment. We have lots of experience, 19 years that we are on the market. At the moment, we have around 200 employees and 1,200 partners spread out across Europe. Of course, Germany is our main market, but we also have lots of technology partners, hosting partners, agencies in other countries as well. At the moment, we have around 100,000 customers, again, across Europe. Regarding our partners, if you're interested, you can find a full list on our website where you can also filter for country. Okay, so back to our topic. What are important trends in e-commerce right now? So trends that shape basically the environment of e-commerce today. So one of them is, of course, progressive web apps that we heard quite in detail from Patrick's presentation. But of course, PWAs are not a standalone solution. So you always need a e-commerce platform, which can be done, for example, with a headless architecture, which is one of the biggest trends today. And then the third trend will be microservices that basically extend the functionality of headless architectures. Okay, so but in order to, so as you can see, basically progressive web apps are basically the spearhead of, for example, a well-built headless e-commerce architecture. In order to basically understand the headless approach, we will need to go one step back and take a look about the e-commerce environment right now. So the status quo. So the status quo is that at the moment, what we see in terms of e-commerce platforms, we see around in the environment are so-called monolithic systems. So all of these systems, they have a front end and a back end. So the front end is basically the presentation layer to your customers, things like the website, services, products, and so on that you can see. And the back end is where everything is controlled and stored. So the admin database, kind of the brain of the actual shop. And what is special? So these two elements, they are the same both in monolithic architectures and in headless architectures. But what changes substantially is that in monolithic systems, both are together inseparably. It is not possible to separate them. This has some advantages, like it is relatively easy to build them up, and if you stay in the very standard, you probably won't have lots of problems. But they also have limitations. So the first can be dependencies, because they are tied together. So if I change one thing on one side, I have to change it on the other side as well. Otherwise, everything will break down. The other one is updates. When I need to update something, I need to update the whole system many times. So this is not really nice in a very flexible, fast-moving environment that we see today. The other point are experiments, for example. Now we are seeing this huge increase in startups that are coming out, and I'm convinced that a startup can only fail if it doesn't do anything. So it needs to experiment, try out new concepts, new things, and then see what works, scale it up, and remove the things that don't work, and then continue working on that. So since it's always easier to explain something with an example, I would like to explain this headless architecture with our newest product, which is Shopper 6, which is built completely following the headless approach and is API first as well. But other than that, it was built with two clear principles in mind. And one is software follows user. So we think that the time has passed when you basically bought a software which had everything included that you might need, and then you as the user would need to adapt to the software. We would like to invert this because we see that the trends are going in the direction that everything needs to be individual, personalized, and so on. So in Shopper 6, the software should follow the user. The second one is configuration over coding. Of course, needless to say, configuration is always easier than touching the code. It can be done by more people, while coding can only be done by people who know how to code. So we try to provide you with an extensive set of tools that you can use in order to configure your platform that it works for your needs instead of touching the code all the time. Of course, it won't be possible to extinguish this at all, but it's done in a more structural, modular way that you're going to see in a bit. And all of this is done in order to give you the maximum amount of freedom to grow. Okay, now that we have seen the status quo and the limitations, here in this slide you can see how the headless way basically works. So we still have front end and back end, left and right, but what is new is that we have the central part, which is the API, so the application programming interface. And for those of you who don't know it, so it's basically the place where two systems find a dialogue, where two systems communicate and send that data back and forth. And it can be seen very well here. So the API is basically responsible to move data from the front end to the back end and vice versa, and make sure that front end and back end become more independent, more modular, while everything goes together inside this API. So here you can see some technological standards, and from the first one already, you can already see why we started this cooperation with Vue Storefront, because our front end is based on Vue.js, which is also built by them, and also our Symfony framework, which is on which the backend is built, is also very important. But basically, if you're a developer, you already know what I would like to say with this slide, and you recognize the technologies immediately. If you're not, then basically what it means to you is that these technologies are very, very widespread in the market, and more than that, they are very, very established as well. So if you think back, monolithic systems, many were built during a time when there were lots of technologies on the markets. Nobody really knew what would be the technology that's going to survive. Now it's different. We have a couple of technologies that are very, very widespread, and we decided to build on these ones in order to make it as easy as possible for you. Here you can see some core insights into Shopware 6. So as you can see, the platform has different layers. So the first one is the front end, which basically has, for example, your websites or also your administration. And this would also be the place where the PWA would be installed and configured. Sorry. What is also possible here is to integrate other services like Alexa, Google Home, Instagram, and so on. And all of this, of course, requires interfaces that allow full access to all functionalities of the system. So this is clearly separated in 6 so that you can connect with almost any front end that you might want. The second one is the business logic. So again, it consistently follows the API first approach. And here you can also see how very well modular it is. So for example, it includes our, as I said, it includes our checkout logic. So finding the right price or the output of category and product pages is possible through this layer. And the actual aim of this is to basically to create solutions that are as generic as possible in order to allow the biggest number of retailers to implement their requirements with already what is available out of the box. But at the same time, it is very important for us to that even very, very individual business models can be realized with respective extensions, and that's why we build it in this way. The next layer is the data access layer, which is it's a central layer between application and the database. So application, everything that is on top of that, and the database below. It is responsible, for example, for reading, writing, and also search data from the database itself. And it makes so this basically makes the data access layer very comfortable, not only for developers, but it gives Shopware or then the owner of the respective Shopware installation much more control on which information should be loaded from which database engine. So for example, you could outsource the search to Elasticsearch, or outsource the whole pricing to Redis cache, for example, and leave everything else on the database. And finally, you have the data layer, which is designed for high flexibility and scalability. Okay, now since we said that the API has a very, very central role, let's do a little zoom in and see what is possible in real life with that. So if we start easy, we can see, okay, you might be able to build your front end or desktop, your front end for your desktop or for your mobile device. So headless e-commerce basically allows you to create it just for one device or for multiple devices, or to have something completely different on mobile. Same also counts for an Instagram shop that you might want to build. Instagram is currently the biggest growing social media network where you can do e-commerce. And here again, it's very easy because Instagram's API talks to ours. Our system is API first, so it gets relatively easy to integrate into Instagram and then sell through this channel as well. So then product servitization, also a very big trend. For example, if you sell like kitchen accessoires, like cutlery, knives, and so on, then why don't you also sell cooking schools, for example? So where customers can try out your products, and if they like it, they can buy them right away, and you can show them how to use them properly. So this is a big trend, and it's easy to do with a headless approach, because you can create a page that, for example, is just a product listing, which is needed for the actual products, but you can also create a page, for example, with content. So if you sell a service, you might need some more content compared to selling products. So this is very easy to combine. And the fourth one is, of course, the PWA solution that we already saw in length in Patrick's presentation part. Okay, then now we've done a zoom in, let's do a little zoom out as well. So how does the API first approach look like in Shopware 6? So you have different APIs. One of is the admin API that communicates with the Shopware core, and basically on the other end is the administration, where you set up your products, your content, and so on. Next, we have the sync API for all external integrations like your ERP, your PIM or CRM, and so on. And then you have the sales channel API with things, for example, social media that we already saw, your POS. And this would also be the place where the PWA would come into play. So it would be a further front end or further sales channel in Shopware 6 for you. Great. So let's go to the benefits. What are benefits of the cooperation between Shopware and Vue Storefront, so Shopware and a PWA? So the first one is that both platforms use the same technology for their front end. And of course, it's always easier to cooperate if you speak the same language. So this is not only the case if you speak to one another, but also for developers, of course. So as we said, the front end is built with Vue.js, so easier to build it, easier to build a PWA integrations. No customizations needed in that regard. Second benefit is that every change is done to the store or to the shopping experiences is automatically transferred to the PWA. And this is also because we would like to make life easier, as easy as possible for both sides, so for us and for you. We try to do the integration as seamlessly as possible. The third one is that the e-commerce platform and PWA are all from the same source. So everybody of you probably knows a situation when you use two different systems. And at this point, I have to say it is absolutely normal to use different systems. The times have long gone when you could expect that one software could just deliver everything for you from one hand. Today, we have a good basis, and then you need third-party integrations that offer you a very, very specialized solution, and they do this specialized solution so well, and the customers also have requirements that if they see some personalization, that the personalization actually works very, very well. So it is not possible to do everything from one hand anymore. So you know the situation, you use two different systems, so something goes wrong, you have a call with each parties, and each party tells you, okay, I only take responsibility for my side, what the other guys did, I don't really care, and I can take responsibility for it. So in the end, you're always left with the responsibility, and no one is really offering you the whole solution. So having this native integration is quite unique, and we think that we can solve this if everything is from one source, and you as a customer just have one contact person to solve all of your PWA issues that you might have. The fourth one is native integration for seamless communication. So other platforms use adapters for PWA integrations. So it means that everything has to be transferred or translated into the e-com site. So from the e-com site into a PWA format. But this is not the case with a native integration, and it provides a much more seamless experience for both admin and customer. And we can see on this slide how this was used to. So actually, at the beginning, we thought about this. So this webinar is of course neutral. So if you go have a look into other platforms that have an adapter integration, it might look like this. So on the right side, we have the actual PWA solution that Patrick described, and the solution is connected via the sales channel API of Shopware 6 to the backend. So on the left side, we find the e-commerce system, which is in blue. And then basically we have this storefront adapter and the PWA backend, which are both needed to basically synchronize the data and translate everything into the right format. So however, we got rid of both the storefront adapter and the PWA backend because we thought that a native integration would make much more sense. And in the end, the actual solution will look like this, where you just have the e-commerce system, which is headless, API first. It's connected by the sales channel API to the PWA solution, which could be one of your front ends. It works offline, and it is, of course, a single page application. So the fifth main benefit is basically that with PWA we see customer centricity at its best. Of course, our offer goes through the entire customer life cycle and is itself customer centric. So you might know these steps, but let's go through them. First one is, of course, acquisition. So Patrick mentioned some of these points at the beginning. For example, Google likes PWA very much. You already have a great advantage in that regard compared to a mobile responsive site. And this, of course, lowers your customer acquisition costs. Then once you have acquired a customer, the next step would, of course, be the conversion of it. And Patrick talked a lot about these two. So, for example, if you have a higher reliability, more an offline functionality, which is also quite unique, and better performance, then of course your conversion rate would go up. And you can also test this. I mean, if you visit any SEO webinar, any SEO course in the world, they will all tell you exactly that. You need reliability, you need higher performance, faster loading times. So this is all true and also very, very important. Then the third step is, of course, retention. Once we convert the customer, we want him to come back, of course. And this can be done in a very nice way, for example, with the home screen icon. So you can just download the website and then it's actually the PWA on your smartphone. You always have it there. You don't need to download it through any app store. And of course, the push notifications, which are a very, very mighty tool that is included in PWAs. All right, and of course, the result of it is a higher customer retention rate. Okay, so just a quick summary, what we've seen so far. So first one, so e-commerce PWA is not a standalone solution. You need some kind of platform in the background. Of course, Vue Storefront is platform agnostic. We have a solution that we are currently building that basically combines both of this. Then the second one is that the API first approach and headless architecture are essential for implementation. And what is also important is that the time of monolithic systems is slowly fading. Of course, the PWA and the backend will be natively integrated into Shopware 6 so that you have a complete solution just from one hand. You don't need to make calls and to different parties. Okay, that's it from my side. Now I would like to hand back to Alex, and yeah, it's time for questions.
Thanks, Vincenzo. So just a reminder that you can type questions into the box on your panel. We've got a few that have already come in. So the first one for either Vincenzo or Patrick, how about push notifications for iOS mobile?
Yeah, so I can take this one. So we know that this is like under construction from Apple. There are some ways around this, but this requires putting your PWA into the actual marketplace. So PWA at its original form, by simply adding that to your home screen, you are not able to have push notifications. You can only have like in-app notifications. Those are the notifications that you can basically have on web, but you would have them only after you open the app. So PWA itself on iOS cannot push it, but there are ways around this. So you can make a wrapper around PWA, add this native functionality like push notifications, and then you can upload this to the App Store.
Great, and we've got a lot of mobile devices have a lower average order value. Do you find that this increases with a PWA?
Yeah, so what we found out is that the good UI and user experience makes a big difference, because very often, you know, this average order size is really connected to the fact of how much time your users spend on your site. So if you're gonna make the navigation for them easier, if you're gonna make the product images as big as they can be with a great description, if you will use your homepage in a good way, because there is something called banner blindness. So there are many different ways that this can impact the average order value. So I believe yes, but it has a lot to do with the actual UI and user experience that you will deliver to them when making PWA.
Great. Lots of questions coming in, which is good. So which payment method is supported by, I assume that's methods, are supported by the payment request API at the moment?
Yeah, so right now it works in a way. Probably you guys checked it out when you are on Chrome, right? Because this is what I'm testing. So Chrome is allowing you to basically save your credit card. So it works in a similar way if you allow other payment gateways to do this. So I don't think there are any limitations to credit cards, for example. If you have Apple Pay or Google Play, it's as easy as using your fingerprint, right? So Google Payment API is making it very easy for everyone to use it. Probably, you know, bank transfer or anything like that is not there yet, because obviously you have to somehow confirm logging into your bank. But in most cases, and I think this is what most people want, is Google Pay, Apple Pay, and credit cards.
And we've got a question here on what is the adoption rate of PWA by big retailers?
I understand that by adoption rate, you mean how many of them are actually doing this, right? Because another question, maybe it's over there somewhere. A lot of people asking me question like, what is the conversion rate for people actually adding the app to the home screen, right? So I will answer the first one. On my slides, you saw the big players like, you know, Twitter, Spotify, Airbnb, Tinder, Starbucks, all those guys, they have a very good marketing teams that are aware of the things that have to be done to increase the revenue for those guys, like performance, better user experience, and so on. When it comes to e-commerce itself, I think Alibaba and AliExpress and Flipkart were one of the first ones, and they saw crazy results. On our sides, I can tell you that just on Friday, Jonathan from Zadig and Voltaire was at Meet Magento Baltics, and he did presentation on how they implemented Vue Storefront on top of Magento 2. So a lot of enterprise clients are digging into this, and I believe that those that will do it first will win quite a lot because they're gonna go ahead of competition by months, right? I think if you're gonna think of product lifecycle, right now we are definitely in early innovators, and those brands like Zadig and Voltaire are definitely there. They want to innovate, they are willing to take the risks, but they see facts, right? They see numbers that are working for the other guys like AliExpress and Alibaba. So I think it's growing, and 2020 will be early majority. So then we're gonna see even bigger players coming in, and a lot of enterprise clients are gonna start pushing their IT teams to do the implementations. Right now, it's coming from the IT teams mainly, not from the business. So it's IT guys that understand the headless and microservices, and they are pushing out to the business for the PWA. And then business is reading about, okay, so how it will affect my business, because I already know my IT guys will be super happy.
Thanks. We've got, can we get a more specific roadmap or dates for when a beta will be ready?
Yeah, so we started as, you know, this connector thing, but then we saw that community and the whole idea of what Shopware should be in the next years. We decided to kind of shift it and go with the native integration. This project just started like 2 weeks ago. The Shopware guys visited our office in Wrocław. We had a great kickoff. We set up the roadmap. So right now we are hoping to finish it by the end of Q1. And we hope to release like an alpha beta version end of January 2021. 2020, sorry, not 21, 2020 in end of January, and then we will have 2 months to finish for the full on and to be started like with full speed.
Yes, and of course
Great.
for this, you can, sorry, just one addition there, Alex. So if you also look on the Shopware website, we're also going to post something there. And if you, for example, register to the newsletter, you can also stay up to date on the roadmap and things like that.
Yeah, and on my presentation, because all of you will get this, there is actually a link to our repo on GitHub, so you can also be there. We're also gonna open up a Slack channel for any developers that are willing to work with us. It's open source, guys. So just stay tuned, follow Shopware 6 and Vue Storefront on social media, and I'm sure you're gonna get your hands on this.
Great. We've got, will progressive web apps be available in all Shopware 6 editions? So this means community, professional, and enterprise versions.
Unfortunately, there's no clear answer to that. So it will definitely be available, but how, in what package, things like that, unfortunately I can't say anything about this. I mean, we will try to make it available to any version, because of course we are an open source company. So you should be able, even in the community version, to have already have a good stable version. But here it's really just stay tuned and check out our website or register to the newsletter, and then we will let you know about this. But at the moment, I don't have definite data on this.
We've got a question here. Since it will be native, will it be possible to make plugins to PWA or /Shopware and use the Shopware marketplace to promote them?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Definitely.
Sorry, no,
I mean, Vincenzo, if you want to add something afterwards, feel free. So yes, I mean, guys, like right now when Shopware is going headless and API driven, I think making plugins will be even better than it used to be. And right now plugins will be split into backend and frontend plugins. So I say yes, definitely that's gonna be how it is. If you're gonna look at what we did so far, if you're gonna go to our GitHub and you're gonna go to Vue Storefront forum, you can already see different modules and plugins done for Vue Storefront. That was for Magento platforms, but it's gonna be the same for Shopware. So I really already recommend look into this and start thinking of what kind of plugins will be needed for your merchants, because it's a huge opportunity waiting for you out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I, of course, I totally agree with Patrick, and also the Shopware Marketplace is a great place to sell plugins, definitely. So as Patrick said, if you think ahead and think, okay, what plugins might be needed, then you might also have a first mover bonus, and can also use this to sell your plugins from there as well. Yeah.
This question might be a difficult one to answer in the time we have, but it's from a developer asking, could you explain how PWA and backend will be natively integrated in Shopware 6?
Yeah, so I think in that case, whoever was asking this, Patrick at Vue Storefront.io, we actually have PDF in works, so I would be more than happy to email that to you, because yes, it would be too long to explain it right now in details. So I would rather connect you to our developers and go it like this.
Great. One question which should be quite quick. Can we integrate this with eCommerce framework Magento?
Oh yeah, Vue Storefront started out as integration with Magento because it was created by an agency, Divante, that is the main investor into Vue Storefront, contributing like most of the developers' time, and it started out with Magento 1 and 2, and right now we are doing it with Shopware.
Great. Well, that takes us to 3 o'clock. So I'd like to end the webinar by thanking both of our speakers for their presentations. And just to remind everyone, as always, we'll be following up with an email link to the webinar, which you'll be able to access at your convenience. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.